So let's create this beautiful design together. We will need seed beads 15O from Miyuki, seed beads 11O from Miyuki. Then we will use pearls 8mm 4 pieces by design, pearls 4mm 8 pieces per design, pearls 3mm 4 pieces per design. Then we will use Chatons Montes 3.9mm 4 pieces and Trivoli 10mm 1 piece per bezel. Then you will decide if you want to create your earrings or you will be using bail for the pendant. Needles 12, any brand you prefer, I'm using John James. Fireline, it's 6LB1 or 0.15mm crystal. I made those earrings before. I really love these colors of powder rose and almond with the Parpadacia Rivolis, but we will be using other colors and we will be starting from the back of the earring. So first of all, we will need 1 seed bead 11, 1 pearl 8mm 4 times in a row. We will be stringing it on around 30-inch long thread, which equals around 80 cm long thread. Of course, it's approximate comfortable length for you. You need to move your beads towards the tail. As you can see, I can hold my tail in my non-working hand, and once I feel comfortable, I make a circle by entering all the strung beads one by one. Take your time, don't hurry. It's good to make everything right. Once you made a circle, we will need to fix it with the half-hitch knot. That means I will make the loop in between two beads and enter this loop to create a knot. Fix it tight and wave through the pearl towards seed bead 11. We are ready to start our step number 2, and we will be using 3 seed beads 15 per gap, creating small picots on the top of each 11. We will do this 4 times all around our future bezel. Make sure that they form nice triangle on the top of the 11. You can help yourself with the pliers, for example, if it's difficult to pull the thread. Once done, we need to reinforce this step. That means we will follow the same path one more time. I will speed up the video a little bit so it will be faster, since I'm repeating the same exact row one more time because I want to make sure that my beads are secured and tight on the top of the previous one. Once reinforced, you need to step out of the middle seed bead 15 of the picot for the next step. Our next step has 5 seed beads 15 plus 1 Chaton Montes that we are stringing through 2 neighboring holes. Pay attention how it's placed. You can see we are using not the crossed ones but the neighborings. Plus 5 seed bead 15 after So this is the combination for one gap. And we enter next middle seed bead 15. Pull the thread tight. You can see two other empty holes are located outwards. I will keep adding the same combination 3 more times around the bezel. Once you're done with this step, again we need to reinforce it. That means we follow the same path one more time, entering all the strong beads to make sure that this row is tight, secured, and we won't cut the thread through the setting of the chatons. You know, they might be sharp sometimes, so it's good to reinforce for extra protection. Once done, you will need to step out of the last seed bead 15 of 5. That means you will start next step before the setting of the chaton, and you will string one seed bead 11. Then you will wave 2 existing seed beads 15 forward out of 5. Pull the thread so there won't be thread visible. Then you string 1 pearl 3 mm and you connect it with 2 seed beads 15 before the next chaton. That means you skip 3 behind from the previous gap and 3 from the next gap. Then again you pick up 1 seed bead 11 in front of the setting of the chaton and pearl 3 mm again in the bigger gap between 2 and 2 seed beads 15, and you pull it tight so there is no visible thread in between, and you keep going all the way around the bezel, since we need to make a nice netting for the rivoli to stay inside. Before you add last pearl, you need to place rivoli 10 mm inside the bezel, because last pearl will close this gap on the top of the rivoli. Once it's centered, you need to string your last pearl. Two seed beads before the chaton setting. You enter it, you can help with the pliers, and you pull it tight, making sure that all seed beads 11 are placed on the top of the rivoli. Of course, this is very important. Now we need to reinforce it. Once it's reinforced, I turned off the camera in between because it's easier to do it in front of my face. We need to step out of the outer empty hole of any chaton montes that we have. To string our next step with one seed bead 15, one pearl 4mm and two seed beads 15 on the side of the bezel. We will enter middle seed bead 15 from step 2 that we used earlier in one of the previous steps. Now we will string opposite combination of two 15s, one 4mm pearl, one seed bead 15 and enter our next Chaton Monty setting following the pass of the thread. And you keep adding those two combinations all around the bezel. You will have 8 combinations like this with 8 pearls 4mm. Once you're done with this step, again we need to make sure that all 11s are on the top of the rivoli. They're holding it like prongs. And then you will reinforce this step again. After this step is reinforced, you will step out of the first seed bead 15 after the pearl. And you will add one extra seed bead 15. I switched the color so it's easier to recognize it. And in between 15s, on the top of the setting from the outer side, you add 1 11. So you have one seed bead 11 on the inner side and on the outer side of the setting. Again, in the next gap between 15 and 15, you add one new 15 and again one new 11 behind the setting, and you make sure that you pull this bead tight so there is no visible thread in between. And you keep adding those two seed beads, one per gap, until you reach the last one in between two pearls out of the first seed bead 15. Here we need to add the earring wire if you decide to make an earring, or the bail for the pendant if you decide to make a pendant. So we will need to string one seed bead 15, then you choose the bail or you choose the earring wire, and one more seed bead 15. So this is how it will look. Loop in between two beads. And then we have our last seed bead 11 to finish the last gap. And we pull it tight. Our design is almost finished. Now we need to reinforce it. Once it's reinforced, we still have, we still have our last step, and of course we need to cut the threads. So you can see this 11 from step 1. We want to add one seed bead 15 on each side of this 11 to hide this thread visible in between the 8mm pearl and the 11. So I will wave my working thread to the back. That means I will wave out of the 8mm pearl. It will take some time to get there because we used seed beads before and it's kind of hard to get through. So you can see those two empty spots where we add one seed bead 15 on each side of 11 to hide the thread. And you will repeat the same action all over the bezel. To make it look complete. Of course, you don't have to do this step if you don't want to. It is more decorational. So completely up to you. I prefer to make it because I think that it looks more accurate and beautiful. You do it only once, you don't need to reinforce this step. So this is just the last action before we secure and cut the thread. Our design is finished. Now we need to get rid of both the threads from the working thread and the tail. So the same way as I made the knot before the beginning, we do a half hitch knot in between the pearl and the seed bead, or seed bead 11 and seed bead 15. You wave forward and you can make one more knot like this to make sure that your beading is secured. I will do it just once because it's harder for me to do it in front of the camera and then wave in between the beads because they are small and really hard to bend in between. So I will just wave a little bit more forward through the seed beads, and then I will finally finish my thread burning it. You can of course use the scissors or any other tool. I prefer to burn because you can make a small knot burning the fire line, melting the fire line. So we completed the pendant and we have a pair of beautiful earrings. So I hope you're inspired and you have some nice ideas about this design. Thank you for watching.